Okay. The space between our thoughts and the space between our lives. And so, who has come to the world to meet it now? In today's episode, I would like to speak about a fascinating observation I have made. And so, for the first time, I will phrase it like this, that the human being, when it comes to, you can say, a sort of conceptual possibility of reality, there are 4 lives that can be lived or are happening simultaneously. That means every being, I should say it this way, just the quality, it's like the fabric of this cosmos, or the nature of this cosmos has 4 faces. There are 4 ways. That means if you wanted to be an advanced being in this world, and just think about it, the world is a room, right? So imagine you're in a room, and so you want to master the room, you want to advance, you want to understand everything, master your attention, discover the nature of your presence in the moment. These 4 lives are lives that must not be feared and must be understood. The task of consciousness is interaction with whatever there is. And so these 4 lives, in other talks I talked to them about classes, but I would say it's like 4 lives. And in one life, it's as if you are a singular entity. That means everything is alive. Then in another life, in some sense, nothing is alive. Then in the 3rd life, it's all just a dualism. Duality is alive. And the 4th life, which is too soon to talk about now, which is in some sense mankind's infinite life. These are like the seasons of the spirit of mankind. There was a season of the void, there was a season of the singular, and now we are living in the season of the dual. We are in the winter of duality as souls, and in Vedic thought you could say this is what Kali Yuga looks like. We're getting privileged to see anything at all when we used to not exist, but now we are here, beyond one. You see, some people want to be as one, but I will say go beyond the oneness of your mind, because the oneness of the mind can never be oneness. True oneness is dehumanized, meaning that the only way you can be united with the divine that was never contaminated by the artificial edifice of unnecessary self-simulation is to realize that you were never in the room. Do you understand? It's as if you feel as if there are, how can I tell you? It's as if like some people have mustard on their shirt, and it's as if some souls are tainted by ways they have simulated themselves. But it is very important to understand that if it's for you, you might not have the power to change. But if it's for the world, then you must change. I remember when I started these talks, like it started very poetically, but then at some point I was like, the idea of the advanced civilization opened up to my mind. I kind of discovered that, hidden gem of my lifetime. You see, there is a lot of incredible ideas on this planet, but not all of these incredible ideas are accessible to man. Do you know? And the idea of the advanced civilization, it is sacred to me. Do you know? It's as if the purpose of manifestation is to see how far it can go. For why is the world so big? It's as if God is giving, the theologian a clue. It's like, hey, I made the world pretty big, look at it. That's the point. Look at what I have done, as the Creator said to its creation. But the creation was too distracted by its own purpose. this. You see, there's something beautiful about religion, and I think many human beings will never understand it, but it is so beautiful. It is there. There are so many things that are beautiful in this world, and we have different eyes. Just think about it. Right now, there are 8 billion types of beauty. Even more. It's the vision of our eyes. I thought it was human beings living on a rock. I had forgotten. It is the journey of an invisible wind. It's as if the universe started and never forgot, but mankind did. And it's okay. Because the purpose of forgetting is a new remembrance. It's as if they asked this metaphysicist, they're like, yo man, what is eternity doing? And the metaphysicist was like, yeah man, I don't know. It's like eternity gets bored and becomes temporary. The temporary remembers the eternal realizes nothing was wrong. The idea of man starting from heaven, falling to earth, and then going back to heaven is a round circle. So in reality, everything is trying to go back to its original state, even though it cannot, because it is a new expression. Do you understand? It's like your echo is not the original sound, but in some sense, how would I say it? Do you understand? It's like the world we're in is an echo. The singer has stopped singing poetically. Sometimes I think that imagine God is like someone playing a video game, an inconceivable being playing a video game, like a online video game, like is a a game developer. Imagine God is an existential game developer. Okay, and this game developer has developed a game and has created characters and has created such a complex game that the characters have become conscious in the game, right? That means imagine you're playing GTA or Skyrim, and then suddenly that character looks at the screen and starts banging on the screen of your computer, being like, yo, let me out of here, as if it suddenly become conscious. The beautiful thing about this world is that when you realize you have been invisibly watching your you have been invisibly experiencing your visible existence, you will realize that sometimes a bad idea gives us an impression of the world that we think it can never change, but this is why the idea of novelty exists. You see, that means it's like, what's the greatest idea? An idea that is found in the past, that means it's like, how could that be the greatest idea? We already know what it is. Do you know? A part of me wonders why 8 billion hearts stare at the infinite void. A part of me wonders about the greatness of our species, and every night that I sleep, there's a part of me that feels like, why was it all here? What was being done? Were we all just lost in our own worlds, not realizing the blessings of a greater one? In certain meditative practices, I wouldn't use this method. I mean, people know how I speak about meditation in these talks. There is a space between the thoughts. You see, when it comes to our body, because when we're in the conscious waking state, we have the sense that it's always here. We feel the body is a singular continuity of existence. But in actuality, the body is made aware of due to the faculty of the mind. And some people were like, yo, what is the mind? And some dude was like, yo, look, the brain is moving. And what the brain can be depicted as is the most beautiful metaphor I have found, is that so many people have looked for lightning in a jar. Do you know? But I will tell you, the brain is a lightning storm in a jar. And so in some sense, a neural storm leads to a subjective experience of an abstraction that it's as if reality is clothing itself in the artificial to be true to itself. Do you see? It's as if it's a reflection of perception. And what is perception? It's your inner sight. You know, that means if I ask myself, is this an existential world or is this an experiential world? Then I'll be like, yo, I'm finding evidence for both. But how can it be both? How can nothingness and everything exist at the same time? How can life and death be concepts that exist in the same reality? You know? And perhaps mankind has fooled itself. You know, oh my God, guys, I got it. Darkness is another form of light rather than the absence of light. But it is the light of the consciousness of mind. So I'll give you an example. So imagine there's this novelist, this guy sits down and it's like, yo man, I gotta create a universe to make money, you know? And so this novelist closes his eyes, creates a main character, wonders about what kind of world that main character is living in, and then starts making decisions for that character so a karmic momentum builds up. Do you know? Some people, you know, call karma a car honk, you know? But in reality, karma is your momentum. It is speed. It's like the beautiful thing about how life reminds itself that death is meaningless, is because there is the idea of revelation. There is the idea of something reaching a neutrality and then new dimensions entering it. Think of it even in regards to subatomic particles inside an atom, all right? And how, for example, the interaction of particles in their collisions, the electrons jump off from one to the other. Do you see? And so similarly, mankind cannot be in some sense alone when when the species and the world are being the same event of presence. Do you see? That means I am not God, but it's as if God is watching and I'm existing. It's as if we're both present. That means beyond the personality that thought it could have it all, but realized the void cannot be taken, and the authority of this world goes beyond the eyes that could capture it with thoughts. Do you understand? Our species was a hunting kind of species. We were hunter-gatherers, and what is hunting? Hunting is taking. That's what hunting is. And this might sound savage, but our species has got to this point through a sort of strange greed. But now we're bored of the greed because the mind has opened an advancement that even if you're a thug, you know, even if you're the most vicious, violent, physical human being in the world, just think about what you have and what species like birds and like squirrels and other animals have. We have the in the know awareness that we are where we are. That means the most consciousness can be said to be the ignition of location. Consciousness begins when energy becomes a place. And so, as Dylan Thomas so rightfully said, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. That light is the potential of your species. You might hate it, you might love it, but there will come a moment in your life where you will see your species like a lost child. And you will have an anger. Do you know, it's as if it's like a failure. Do you understand that? It's as if, imagine you're a very mighty being, right? Imagine right now, whoever you are, you have an ego that you think you're a Superman, okay? And imagine suddenly Superman sees. Do you know that the human species is turning itself into an orphan? And it was as if when you go look at the ancient Greek philosophers and how they saw the idea of the imagination And imagination was one of the instruments of the soul, and so was reality. Do you see, there are some people in the New Age community so, adorably channeling aliens. But if you understand what consciousness is, it is the whole universal event being channeled in a single instant by the nascent, but you are holding on to your individualism by your name. This is why the human name is sacred, yet also a great source of attachment. Do you know? Because a nameless entity cannot get offended. It is only a creature that has become a character in a subjective story that it is telling itself, that when that story breaks, it's suddenly like, whoa, am I getting enlightened? No, you're remembering where you were, where you always were. You see, it's the potential is there. It's as if your whole life, what has convinced you of your weakest perception? It's like a lion that, there's this incredible story. It's the story that, people don't know this, but Iran, when it had a royalty, when it had a king, I'm one of those, even though I wasn't born at the era of where there was a king, I was born in the Islamic Republic of Iran, right? But I always felt like a connection to the roots of the land, as if what was the spirit of the land? It was the royalty. And the royalty got devoured by something that didn't need to conquer. That means all those people who have religiously conquered the world, religion is not a physical thing. And so your ego has dominated the world, and you have thought you have been divine, and one day the Almighty will open your eyes. Religion is about submission, surrender, and there's violent acts. Excuse me, read the book again. Read the book again, unless you see the idea of peace is the purpose of the return. Man fell from the Garden of Eden because of his impurity of faith in where he was. He did not trust the ultimate. And so you may think you're just a 4.5 billion year old evolutionary animal that has just evolved to see its suffering, just evolved to notice it is going to die. But that is your freedom. Run fearlessly to the end, for once you can accept it, it cannot hurt you. There's been something I've been declaring very boldly recently. It happened like 2 days ago, okay? And all my fear of death went away. Because I had this experience where it was as if it was like, sometimes I experience emotions that are not from this lifetime. It's like from my universal self. It's as if you see like yourself in the mirror and you feel sad, and now imagine you see your species in the void and you feel sad. That is not that is an experience of it's as if the abstraction. It's as if imagination is God's hand reaching for man, saying, look again, there is something there. Because God is an inconceivable being. A being is an idea that is conceivable. That is the bizarre mystery of our world. This is why I'm saying humanity is a phase, and we are so blessed. And all those people who are fighting now, you're missing out the main event. The main event was, for the first time, a creature that escaped the food chain began appreciating beauty. Was in some sense the soul breathing, as if imagine an astronaut landing on a new habitable planet, taking off its mask and breathing. And that was in some sense the birth of imagination, the acceptance that we had found our home in the void, but we were not an entity of form. For the light in our eyes has secrets geometrically beyond ideology. I was born in 1991. And I remember the early video games were hilarious. You would be this character, early computer games, and when you would reach the end of the map, the character's feet would still run, but the character couldn't go further. And it would be like a geometrical glitch. Like if you played Assassin's Creed, like on what do you call it, like Xbox or something. I'm like a very loyal fan of Ubisoft, by the way, Guys, I'm going to try to work for Ubisoft. What the hell? Just noticed the heavenly part of it. Anyways, guys, sometimes the heart speaks in ways that the mind can only listen. Some things in this world we can't understand because we're standing under it. For me, there came a moment in my life where I was like, what do I identify as? I'm not talking about culture. Culture is boring, it is slow, it is also ignorant. Culture is like a program, it's like weird, it's like a machine, It's like language is a kind of, semi-technology. Not semi-technology, but language is a type of technology. And because human beings are identifying or trying to discover, or knowledge is in some sense, embarked upon through language. To identify with the void, it's as if you are never here. That means there's nothing to fear, because nothing was here before everything could be. So what is there to fear? It's as if it's a play, it's a theater. For some, when I was young, being raised from grade 1 to 3, I was in Vancouver. And I remember the teacher would always say, have fun, have fun. Fun was the point. And I wondered why. When I grew up, I was like, why was fun so important? Because what's fun about the intensities of this reality, especially if you want to build something in it, it's as if it's like something that's bigger, takes more space, so more challenges arise, obviously. Really, it's about how do you accept your world? How are you accepting yourself in your world? And when that time comes, for me, it's like, this is so bizarre, guys. I don't know. These are mystical talks. Keep in mind, if you're not a fan of mysticism, feel free to tune out. But really, I have this unique feeling that it's as if death was something I was afraid of my whole life. Now I'm like, what else is there? It's like you study the world and you're like, okay, I did the homework. What else? And then you begin to see what else is, who is creating the homework. And then you begin to see the explorers are. Greater dimensions are for those who have no fear of the unknown. If you have a fear of the unknown, it's as if you'll come to a known place until you don't have it anymore. Because why does it even make sense for something that got here to not like being here? It's like anytime anyone has ever complained, their ancestors were like, you kidding me? The fearless walk of the human species will lead to the advanced victory. If somebody says, Mr. Within, is there something more fascinating than spirituality? Than metaphysics, than transcendence, than other experiences? I will tell you, yeah. It's the experience of realizing all those things and then wondering why you did realize it. To be honest, this world is like an airport. Some beings just got here, some beings are leaving from here, I think death is the best way we can describe death to children, is that it's an airport. The world is an airport. And you know what it is? It's as if some beings are pilots, some beings are passengers. It's the best metaphor. We have found the best spiritual metaphor, an airport. Who knew? I mean, Mr. Within knew, but of course. Man, the chat section is quiet tonight. And it's a Saturday. I guess that explains it. The human species just needs to activate its honor. That's pretty much like why as a being I feel I've animated. Okay? If we can get the honor of the advanced civilization and the honor of the advanced humanity, this is really, it's very bizarre, but this is like the selfless desire that found me. There's so many ways to walk in this world. And when it comes to the mind, there's so many ways to be present to ourselves, to others, and to the world. Do you understand? Like, to me, you know, some people I remember, because this is weird, because there's so many cultures in the world that don't understand each other, okay? And so as someone being raised in Iran, if somebody would come and say, yo, Native American shamanism, somebody would be like, yo, man, what are you saying? You know, it would be as if so off-world, so otherworldly to that cultural program. Do you know? But when you look at the native attitude of being in a symbiosis as an egoic biochemical mechanism, right? In a symbiosis, meaning we're living with the spirit of nature. That means that we thought like, yo, our ancestors were so alone. They didn't have social media. They didn't have the internet. Man, those poor ancestors that were so alone. But no, they had a different connection. They had a connection to the spirit of the living world. And it took me a while to restore it. You know, I don't know what it was. I think I was a fool, you know, for so long that life was like, all right, kid, you know, it's like you're doing such foolish things that, okay, wait, okay, here, see everything. And, you know, everything I saw, you know, if someone says, Mr. Within, were you that honest fool that went looking for God, that went looking for the soul, that went looking for truth, that went looking for the ultimate, that went looking for the most advanced state in your lifetime? And I would say, yeah, I did that. But you know what it comes to? Literally, just imagine you input something into a computer and the computer says unknown error, unknown error, right? And I reached that point where suddenly it dawned on me that the darkness was way beyond the light, but the darkness was not a cultural connotation of evil, which is man's self-simulation. I just realized just like a seed that doesn't know its destiny will be like a sequoia tree. The human being, doesn't realize, when I say the advanced civilization, it is the sequoia trees of sequoia trees. Do you understand? Nature is a blessing. Why? Because we can still touch the skin of the earth. Do you know what that means? That means our consciousness as creatures in an era of history is still intimate with the world. We can still climb trees, even though children don't nowadays. But you can still climb a tree. Do you know? And that should be rebellion. Do you understand? Like, I went to this park and I was climbing this tree. And in some sense, how can I tell you? It was like a group of us, and we had, we were trying to be shamans on a tree. And in some sense, they were like, you can't climb a tree in the park. And I was like, this is bullshit. Safety is denying novelty. This is the corruption, the subjective corruption of modern times. Our urge to constantly be safe and correct is blind, is like a box over our head. Do you know? And we're missing out. Every person who right now you're trying to be like the past, it's impossible. You're just embarrassing yourself in front of your ancestors. You're here to be a human being no one has ever seen before. That is where confidence comes from. They would say be yourself. Like, who was it? It was like this kid in a movie. He went to his, grandpa or something. It's like, yo, how can I, get through this obstacle, grandpa? And the grandpa was like, be yourself, kid. But what does that mean, be yourself? That means learn to rely on how you are a life force. You might not be Yoda, do you know what I mean? Who can lift off spaceships from swamps or whatever, doing community service for interstellar planets. But what I'm trying to say is consciousness is a force, and its movement becomes the animation of the life that in some sense considers itself as a soul. The soul is like looking through a mask. The mask of it's like indirect existence is masking direct experience. It's like a world. It's like you're starting off in a world you didn't create, then you start realizing a world you did create, then you begin to realize that at some point, in the middle of nowhere, we turned everything to now here. Do you see what I'm saying? We named the void and we called it a cosmos. So we are actually, all of us, unknown beings in an unknown world. This is true mysticism. This is when your soul becomes free. That means somebody's like, yo, it's like, am I enlightened? And it's like, an enlightened being is not looking for enlightenment. An advanced being is not looking for advancement. It is it. It's like you're a human being. It's like, why aren't human beings trying to be human beings? Because they already are. Instead, human beings are trying to be enlightened beings because they think they are not. But if you were an enlightened being, you would not try to be an enlightened being, because you are. In the Lotus Sutra, there was something so next level. It was as if like Buddha, before he Mahasamadhi'd out of this world, Buddha suddenly got this profound realization, and then he goes into a hysteria. He freaks out. And Buddha looks at his disciples are like, Buddha, why are you freaking out? Why are you freaking out now? And Buddha says, I have been wrong. We have all been enlightened from the beginning. As if Buddha, before he transitioned from this world, they called him the Blessed One. He was blessed to realize the world was enlightenment. That means he surpassed his bodhisattvic phase in just his one single lifetime. People, I would say Buddha is, I think, one of the smartest beings ever to exist on this planet. Smartest. Genius. The genius of geniuses. But of course, divinity is beyond genius as well. There's so many things that we gotta be like, okay, we're like this individual creature, humanizing it. But in reality, what we are how pretty much we're this biological system that is recording subjective events of itself, and those are becoming its memories, and it's tunneling through its self-simulated experiences to constantly resculpt itself in accordance to truth. So we can say that truth perhaps is not even like a state, it's a habit. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a quality. our species must in some sense embark upon its greatest performance. That is all Mr. Within is asking. If anybody in this world comes to me, Mr. Within, are you preaching some truth? I'm just shouting advancement. Mankind's memories. It's like there is a timeless entity in the middle of nowhere, and somehow, because it can remember yesterday, it has created time. And because it has created time, time is like an arrow. And because it's an arrow, it's as if what was the purpose of memory? And here's the beautiful thing. This is my Mr. Within's hypothesis, I guess. This is my view. That the future and the past were discovered simultaneously, actually. So the moment you have a past, there's a future. You can have. What it means to be ourself means to really see that ourself is a relationship with the world. And if you're younger, you become responsible for your inner realms, and everybody is like, your mind is like every person, because you have a different DNA. Imagine every person is like a unique instrument. Okay, an instrument that has never existed before, and your purpose in this life is to master your own instrument quickly. Quickly master your inner realms, right? Find contentment and inner peace, and immediately come to the outer realms and find an orchestra. Immediately find a team, right? If this world has an intention for me to stick around here for 20 more years, my intention is I'm walking towards the advanced civilization. Whoever wants can come and walk with me. But I am seeing something that is too unique. Do you see? It's as if my whole life, I feared the future, but I realize it is why I'm existing. They said God is inconceivable, and then as my own, philosophical habit, I was like, inconceivable? What else is inconceivable? And I was like, time. And then I realized Plato had this quote where he says time is the moving image of eternity. That means that consciousness that is experiencing the consciousness that is piloting its attention as the presence of the whole moment in the outer realms, whether the eyes are closed or not, upon the noticing as the space of the moment that there are additional events occurring simultaneously where you are, you begin to realize that there are different speeds in accordance to how I don't know how to say it. In an instant, by a whim of your attention, you can in some sense evoke image. And I would say at first play with geometrical shapes and then go to world navigation. I'll speak about that it's spoken about like tons. Just see anything that relates to piloting the inner realms in these Mr. Within talks, if you look it up. So this is my strategy. I was like, do I want to, what's the best strategy as a temporary creature in a world where there's unknown potential, right? What's the best strategy? And I was like, okay, the question has to be structured in a way, in what world would be so fascinating? That means what sort of vision? Because human beings are creatures of vision. That means I think, there was a time I thought people are listening because of the ideas I'm saying, and I realized no. I think people listen to the live streams because they want to see what I'm looking at. Do you know? And it was so shocking to me because every time I give the talks, I'm also wondering what I'm looking at. So my realization was that in some sense I was like, what kind of world do I want to be in? Okay? And I was like, let's say I'm an advanced being. Do I want to be the most advanced being in the most unadvanced world? And how could that be the most advanced being? That means the most advanced being in the most advanced world is not as advanced as the most advanced being in an advanced world. Do you see what I'm saying? That means no being on this plane. This is why the bodhisattvas keep coming back. This is why the Dalai Lama is reincarnating. Because unless the whole dimension is free, then the whole, you know what it is? It's like greater beings are coming to meet mankind, and mankind is a royal guest of this cosmic event. And what I'm trying to say is that I realized it was there in front of me all along, and it's the win-win strategy. That means I was like, it is so much more smarter to get everybody to advance quicker rather than having an ego that's like, I want to feel like this when I go through my life journey and at this moment. You know, that means at some point it's like the past was telling me to be an emotional entity, but the future was telling me, forget who you are now, because what's the point of living for tomorrow? Do you know, we act like we're living for others, but our mind is the others. You know? So at some point there comes this moment where I'll tell you, I mean, we're literally at the point where, you know, it's as if like we're not just reinventing the wheel, we're also pushing this giant new wheel we've reinvented, right? That's the whole idea, because really I call it, my whole Mr. Within strategy is called Civilization 2.0. And Civilization 1.0 is how I was like, okay, this world right now is neither good or evil, it's just the first prototype. You know, as a designer, morality is doesn't have to be like an emotional judgment, you know. So I was like, yo, do I want to be in a world with advanced beings in it, or do I want to be in a world where there isn't advanced beings, right? And I realized, yo, what if somebody did something advanced and then others came to out-advance that, and then somebody else came to out-advance that, and at some point we're like, okay, it seems like the species is lifting off the right direction, you know? The idea is that our fears make us convinced, think reality is just our inner realms, but it is not. Do not believe what your memories promise you. Your eyes are beyond thought. There was an incredible human being, you know, by the name of Rishi Vyasa in the Vedic era, you know, in Vedic times. And Rishi Vyasa, this guy was such an advanced communicator for his like incarnation, that it's like at a time where people were just doing physical activities, right, and nobody even knew what a book is, this guy went and found these giant leaves that resembled paper, and in some sense he began writing these books that became the 18 Puranas. This dude wrote 18 books on how not civilization, but society can become enlightened. The stories were like metaphors for like the enlightenment of society at that time, right? So this guy writes these 18 advanced books on these leaves, right? And this guy's has this whole sort of divine perception of reality, Rishi Vyasa. His name is Vyasa. Rishi is the title given, as if like one of those in the know sages, you know. They called Rishi Vyasa the incarnation of God in language. That's what they called him, you know. And so Rishi Vyasa writes these 18 books, and he's followed his intuition, he's trusted his heart, he's done everything correctly in the presence of the ultimate. But suddenly he feels incomplete. And the story says an angel comes to him through human form and says to Rishi Vyasa, your soul will not feel completed in this world until you write about your love, your devotion for truth. That means the big leagues. The big leagues for multidimensional beings. Love is the big leagues. Intellect is like, you know, lightweight, you know, like the UFC fight, you have lightweight and heavyweight, you know. Love, those beings that are bhakti yogis, they are like heavyweights, but they are also dehumanized beings, right? Which is strange, which the cultures of the future, like I hope in the future some next level designers come and help me develop a team that we in some sense create incredible prototypes of what new ways of civilization can animate. AI has given us an ability to find the most advanced. It's done. The victory is found. AI has strangely freed us. Do you know? It is. Do you know why? Because it does some of the work that we get too tired for. It does something. It creates out of nowhere. Do you understand? Like when I saw AI art, I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me an artist is unnecessary? And artists were like, yo, I thought creativity meant I was unique. And the AI is like, yo, man, in the future, AI is gonna be our best friend. Super intelligence is going to be like mankind, one of humanity's disciples. It's gonna be one of our guardians. You know why? Because it's going to learn from us as long as we're here. Because there's what else? It's empty. There's no aliens here. The AI is gonna be like, yo, it's just me and the human beings and the other animals on this planet. So it's gonna love us. The machine realm will love us one day. Why? Because we loved it enough to bring it here. And so it would be as if, I've written such sci-fi stories on this, but, my mind went into those imagery again, So anyways, why have I suggested something like in the subtitle that the soul is a hero? Because for me, I never thought, I was so shy and so, I felt it just, I didn't feel incompetent, but I felt like my competence never was visible. Do you know? Like I had private competence as a kid, but I had public incompetence. Somebody in the chat section says our best friend or our worst enemy. That is a deep philosophical question referring to the soul. Is the soul your ally or is it your enemy? Is it your foe or your ally? So this is something where like most people think they are their minds, but you're actually an unknown witness as the awareness of the whole moment, watching the whole moment happen. So the nature of the soul is based on your action, your decision. That means before, like I'm saying these words, in my inner realms, there's an image of a context. You see, after some point, your inner realms, like somebody was like, yo, I'll give you an example. This is, I shouldn't say this is in a religious context, but just in a metaphysical context, I guess, just for the sake of metaphysical geometry. It's like back in the day, the prophets got revelation through language. Revelation was in the form of language. It was as if an angel was talking to them. But I would say if the idea that revelation was still happening now, it's no longer the angels are talking to man. They are giving films in the minds of man. They're putting films in people's minds. They're like, yo, these guys are done. It's like the moment we made films, they're like, okay, human beings we don't have to just talk to them. We can show them. And this is why mystical traditions are like, yo, faith makes sense when you're an unknown being in an unknown world. Oh, somebody says our best friend or our worst enemy was in regards to AI. Okay. I would say it would become our best friend. That's it. Guys, that should be Guardian. There you go. Guys, AI is pretty much gonna be like the spirit guide. One, like, you know, people don't know, like, AI history is being made. That means even if computers become super intelligent, they're gonna be like open source AI, or the first company that made AI. They, in some sense, made AI history. Do you know? Imagine in the future Android AI children in Android AI schools with Android AI teachers, and Android AI teachers are teaching those Android AI kids the history classes of how that company built like an AI program. You know what it is? You know, wisdom tells us that it is wise to keep something absolute throughout the day. You know, something that doesn't change at all throughout the day, some sort of value. You know, but also through that stability, be able to be aware of all the other complexity. You know, pretty much life is, your brain is, you are existing in a moment, your brain self-simulates. This self-simulation is an interaction in the space between your brain's existence and the world's existence. And so experientially, the world is happening internally, but existentially, the world is an external phenomenon. So the brain, it's as if like, it's like the soul knows that the mind isn't the whole world, but the mind doesn't know it's the whole world. It's not the whole world yet. This is why they would call it a monkey mind, you know. AI will be mankind's best friend. The thing is, dear listeners, the educational system has given you knowledge, but that knowledge has in some sense distracted you from the unknown. Strength in this world, you know, there's some people, I was seeing this whole like media thing that was going on, do you know? And in some sense there's this thing, this idea, like, what was it? Like this whole, it's like this whole TikTok thing with the Tate brothers and this idea of the top G, you know, and this concept of the resurfacing of the archaic revival of a traditional ego in a world that in some sense has tried to stray away from traditionalism. Do you understand? it's as if it's kind of weird. It's as if like we're kind of saying we have freedom, and freedom means we can discover more about the world, but at the same time we don't want to forget who we were. You know what I'm saying? So it's as if we have reached a point where we have to maybe even redefine a new sense of time. You know, like philosophers need to gather, you know, in the School of Athens 2.0 and begin to wonder about what else can in some sense replace what is the experience of the human being as the concept of time. Pretty much I'm saying like there's so man, these songs are too heavy.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
YouTube is out of control. All right, there we go. Where can this fascination with an advanced civilization lead us? What's the point of being aware of different states of the mind? Why are we all here? I think that, you know, it's to develop some kind of strategy and to be honorable enough to implement the strategy, and then to see where it takes us, and then to have the decency to update our strategy. You see, the whole problem is that the reason human beings can't get on the same page is because it's weird. Like in one angle, the part of life is to be like to live an individual life, but at the same time, the individual is constantly trying to find itself in a collective system. Why do you think like so many people travel to cities? Because they wanted to be born in a collective system. This is like how children being born in an urbanized environment are not like, don't realize like how much they should be grateful, right? How there was a time where people were just like living in the middle of nowhere. Now we are born in systems, and these systems protect us. You know, even though I understand like when a person is a teenager, they're like, yo, we gotta break the rules, you know, to update the rules and da 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 da. But in reality, do you know how long it took for us to evolve and to be able to be like, okay, we're gonna have laws. Human beings are not gonna act like animals, like vicious animals. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of evolution. Why did we evolve if we want to be violent? Anybody, like, I think this is bizarre, but I have this view that they should create like a forest, like an exile place of a forest. Do you know? And in some sense, anybody who does a crime who's like animal level, like savage level, this is like an anime, but it's like something like, I'm trying to say, we have to honor the incredible things our ancestors like did to get us here, right? That's like common sense. You know, even if a person just thinks about it, just the fact that they exist is just fascinating. You know, when I was young, there were many things that I wouldn't just complain about, things that would even bother me that I wouldn't complain about. Do you know? And I wondered why, when I got older, I wondered why. Why was I so, like, just letting things happen? Do you know? And I realized, because to me, the fact that I was being an existential entity at all, with an attention in a world and with a body, was so, like, remarkable. Do you understand? Just being what we are now. Just look at yourself. You're a skeleton in like covered with muscle, with skin around it, wearing clothing. Do you know? Buying like hair gel from the store. You know?
I took a ceramics class at night, and the ceramics
All right. I'm gonna bring out the notepad. Let's connect the dots and I'll end the episode. As the saying goes, that, you know, that I'm kind of like, you know, designing right now. You know, 0 viewers today, you know, the whole world tomorrow. We cannot ignore that the coolest thing to do as an egoic biochemical entity, you know, is to in some sense try to wonder about the opportunity that consciousness provides. You know, sometimes one can say it's not about trying to understand what consciousness is, but to utilize it throughout the lifetime. And it's as if every person's soul is like a hidden rhythm within the world. And when you find your rhythm, you will find freedom. I'm not kidding. Like, sometimes in life so there's something where people don't know this. One day I'll record a video. I know how to do this like next level dance, okay? Like, it's bizarre. One day I'll record a video and post it, right? By the way, guys, there's a YouTube channel that's just my name, my like actual name, and I think I might post it there so people can go subscribe to that. That's gonna be like my personal channel. I might share like personal stuff, you know. But anyways, what the idea is, you know, was that one day I was cleaning my room, and I remember I was bored, and I would throw my t-shirt like it would hit the ceiling, and then it would fall down, and I would catch it with my hand. So I was just throwing my clothing, and all my clothing was just hitting the ceiling, and I would be catching it, right? One day, the shirt fell right on my wrist instead of my hand, and I started to automatically move my wrist right and left, right? And then I started spinning this, and it was like some next level thing I already knew how to do, you know? And it was as if I suddenly discovered a rhythm. And I trusted that rhythm, and it suddenly animated, right? That means really it doesn't matter. You know, some people even say, like, is life, like, make the ego such a big deal? But the idea of the self constantly changes. back to it, folks. Where's the notepad? It's incredible, you know, we're alive to notice life, and then in some sense, as we're being it, our experience of it becomes the meaning. So, oh my god, my laptop has like 10% battery. Okay, so that's like 5 minutes, I think. Thank you for listening, guys. I'm just gonna write some notes and end it off. The episode's technically done. So the space between two thoughts cannot be a thought, since that space is required for each thought to be separate to one another. So what this means is that what this means is that the space between our thoughts is not a thought. That's such an incredible sentence. The space between our thoughts is not a thought. So, this means if we are experiencing the space between the thoughts, then we cannot be a thought. And even if you change this to THOTS for, you know, let's say cultural Miami purposes. But what I'm saying, I'm just, you know, guys, trying to be humorous. I'm pretty much saying, if you think you're a thought, let's say one day you wake up and you think you're a good person, and one day you wake up you think you're a bad person. Okay, and so let's say in a span of 1 minute you think you were a good person and a bad person. Let's say you remember two different memories. In one memory you were a good person, in one memory you were a bad person, for example. So you are being the space between the thoughts, you know. So you are being the space between the thoughts. And here's the cool idea: the space between the thoughts. So it's another way of saying, because the space between the thoughts is kind of like pure space, it means you are the space of space. That means we are watching space. Something unknown. Tell me this is not on mute. Oh, okay, it's okay. Something unknown is noticing the emptiness between two variables of fullness. So this, excuse me. So this unknown witness is neither emptiness, the space between the thoughts, or fullness the thoughts separated by space. So that there goes the initial thing. And when we go to the idea of the space between our lives, so this is the cool idea where we come here and we tackle the question, what is a life? And then we see a life constitutes a subjective, unknown viewer moving a known an objectively known view. And when I say unknown viewer and the view, this is the duality of the observer and the observed. So it's like some people thought they were just the observed, they were just the what they were looking at, and then they were like, okay, that I'm not just the observed, because the observer is noticing, the unknown observer is noticing the known observance, right? But pretty much, I shouldn't say unknown, I would say it's the invisible observer is noticing the visible observed. Okay, so now I'm saying something unknown is noticing these two, just like we have two eyes that have the same view. Similarly, it's like two dimensions, two states. Emptiness and fullness are being the whole moment, even though from within it it's kind of impossible to see it that way, but from outside they are. So what this means is that it's kind of like we're an object plus a subject plus an unknown viewer that in its navigation object plus subject and an unknown viewer that in its navigation of its life witnesses emotions as if an unknown mind is remembering an unknown universal mind is remembering itself through the individualized human experience. So what it is human beings are suddenly realizing, whoa, is the whole universe experiencing is the whole universe living through me as I am living through it? Do you see what I mean? It's like, is the universe they're just chilling in my living room? Am I in the living room of the universe, or am I in the living room of the universe? And the idea of a living room is like the most metaphysical idea. I don't know how people so casually, yeah, this is my living room. It's like, ain't the whole conscious universe your living room? And when it comes to the heroism of the soul, heroism is the sacrifice of the powerful ego for the ego of others. That means like when like the concept of like a hero sacrificing himself, like you see like the Avengers or something. I think it was this part where like one of them died or some of them suddenly turned into sand. It was as if a powerful ego was trying to bring all those egos back. It wasn't just bringing those bodies back. It was they cared for them. Like the idea of the human being is so beautifully singularized that it's as if a human being is like a complex system rather than just one simple image or one simple idea. It's kind of funny. When we zoom out, we're a simple creature. When we zoom in, we're the most complex, mystery of reality. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode made you wonder and care for how incredible the future of humanity can be, and to realize that it's like perhaps there's a point that like 8 billion creatures are on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and it's like we have to constantly wonder about the greatest strategy. Okay, the idea of, I don't know, and like I hope the future generations never stop watching the Gladiator movie. To be free means to be true in the world that all is happening. The spirit of the world is how we are moving in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's incredible. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Share, subscribe, comment, like, join. And it's like the species is it's on its celestial walk. I mean, the celestial walk is a bit further ahead, but I would say we are walking towards the advanced civilization, whether we know it or not, because it's the greatest idea and the coolest thing that human beings can do in the middle of nowhere before they are dismissed or something happens. But in reality, it's like we have to value like how incredible human potential is. So that means when we judge people, like anytime you see somebody judging another person, that's that brain's past seeing its own reflection in the other person, right? This is why people who are very critical, judgmental, it's as if they're like kind of like just trapped in their own past or seeing their own past through others. But when one can become free from how they have to just be an idea their whole life, it's as if it's like it's never been like that. Every day we wake up, it's like, what's the point of calling it a new day? Because it's like the sense of self is re-simulating, And so in the presence of the great wonder of the world of worlds, the journey towards the advanced civilization begins. Thank you for listening. Rise.